Welcome back to the greatest show of all time. This is the NFC East Mixtape, the greatest crossover ever attempted and successfully landed in the history of all mankind, all humans, all aliens, and everything otherwise. You can listen to this show on any of 4 different podcast networks here at SB Nation: Blogging the Boys for your Dallas Cowboys coverage, Bleeding Green Nation for Philadelphia Eagles, Hogs Haven for Washington Commanders, and Big Blue View for New York Giants. I am Ochoa from Blogging the Boys. He is Brandon Lee Gowton from Bleeding Green Nation. You can also watch us on the Bleeding Green Nation YouTube channel or Blogging the Boys YouTube channel. BLG, it's great to see your bright, shining, beautiful face and your perfectly straight teeth. I'll just go ahead and say that there.
That's not true. They're definitely messed up. But if you want to see that, and if you're listening to the audio version and you're not seeing my not perfectly straight teeth, and you want to see that, you can do that by going to the YouTube. But RJ, first I want to note that you went with "Welcome Back" instead of "Welcome One, Welcome All" at the top of the show.
Yeah, I got to mix it up. Got to keep you on your toes, So
mixing it up on the mixtape. And second of all, I want to inform the listeners that I think at the end of the last episode that we did, which is where we talked about our other teams that we kind of have a soft spot for, I believe. We had teased we're going to do a podcast with Jimmy Kempski and have him on. Unfortunately, there was a death in my family. My grandmother passed away. She's a very special lady. Funeral's coming up, so it's just been chaotic. I bring it up just because it's been a chaotic. So I just wanted to keep the listeners informed of why we didn't deliver on what we said, because there's been a lot of moving parts for me behind the scenes. So I appreciate your patience, RJ, and flexibility with all this, and Jimmy Kempski's as well, because we haven't been able to do BGN radio, and the listeners as well for understanding in this time.
Well, I know I speak for the listeners, Brandon, and saying you don't owe us anything, and we're all thinking of you and your family. There's no love like a grandmother's love, and so I know how special that is, and so we all love you, we all care for you, but we want you to take care of you, and so that's what matters most. I know I speak for Jimmy too. I don't know Jimmy. I feel like it's super awkward. Like Jimmy and I are like these intimate parts of your life, and we don't even know each other. That's just I feel like he and I should have some ground rules, like how to treat Brandon, but we've never had that conversation. So but seriously, do what you need to do. We'll all be here when you're done, when you're ready.
Thanks, buddy.
And we'll take care of that. But
thank you.
So it's difficult to talk about football in the scheme of life, or the grand scheme of life, and that's just part of we live somewhat public lives, and things that we do ripple into work or whatever, and so it's difficult to always kind of bring things back to football. So I'm going to try I'm going to try and I'm going to try to make it mixtape, you know what I'm saying? That's the whole point here. So let me start with a random question, like I always do.
Okay.
I would like to know something that you think is one of the best feelings in the world, an oddly specific feeling, and I have an example first if you need one.
Ooh, what's really underrated to me is a good stretch. You wake up and not necessarily was right away. No, it's really good. It's not necessarily right when you wake up immediately. No, but it's in the morning and maybe you're feeling a little bit tired and you just stretch. It's such a good feel. It really is. I feel like it's a great feeling, underrated feeling.
Mm-mm. That's a dumb answer compared to mine. Mine is super specific, not to me, but to the situation. So
to be clear, just not you're getting into a yoga stretch. You have to stretch. You feel like you need to stretch and you get it out. Yeah, it's you have to. It's almost an involuntary stretch. That just feels really natural and good.
So we don't have a lot of carpet in my house, which I'm happy about. Having a dog, you know what I mean. You don't want carpet, but if you have carpet, I think you will understand this feeling. So that's an admitted qualifier to have this feeling. You have carpet, maybe it's even a little cool outside, and you're walking around the house wearing socks, not shoes, just socks, and you're moving around, whatever, this and that, and it's time to go to bed. And so you sit on the bed, whatever, you lift your foot up, you take the sock off so your foot doesn't touch the floor, and then you slip it into the sheet. That's an amazing feeling.
Very specific. Yeah, I don't really have carpeting.
Try it.
I can't. I don't have carpeting.
Well, go somewhere with carpet. Get a rug. You know what I mean? Get a rug and just scoot around on it, create some static electricity, and try it. Or if you, the listener, have carpet, let us know. By the way, on the subject of listening to things we are on, we were on another show together, the SB Nation NFL show on Monday, Football Monday. We did a quadcast. Brandon, myself, you, Pete Sweeney, Rob Statsquare. We drafted MVP candidates for 2022. That went over rather well with people, it seems.
It was a fun time. The listeners are seemingly liking it. Stats sabotaged our team, I feel like, with some very dubious suspect picks, some homer picks, and one pick especially. But yeah, it's definitely at the very least a fun listen. So go check that out if you have not already. If you listen to the mixtape, if you listen to Winning Your Nation BGN Radio, if you listen to Blogging the Boys, you're gonna like the SB Nation NFL show. So go check it out.
Okay, so what we're doing today is part one of two, because we like to do stuff like that. I liked the terminology you came up with for this. I think last year we called it like the all NFC East team. That was stupid. But you said NFC East All-Stars. I really, really, really like that, because in my mind, they're playing a game. They have like team uniforms. They're wearing their respective team helmets, like the Pro Bowl, you know what I mean? But there's like a process. There's like an event. They have like goodie bags. Like, you sent my mind down a spiral of hypotheticals, which I was, pleasantly enjoying. So that being said, today is NFC East All-Stars, the offensive edition. Will you describe, Brandon, the 11 players that we will be fielding?
You just made me think of how it might be interesting to also look at like just the 11 best players maybe from offense as opposed to just position. Obviously, you wouldn't be forming a team. Yeah, but I think this is more interesting than that, to be clear. I just think that would be interesting to compare it, contrast it to. But as we did last year, we'll be going through an all NFC East offense with a quarterback, a running back, starting offensive line, obviously, and then one tight end and 3 receivers. I will note here that if the division had like really awful receivers and like 2 really amazing tight ends, we could maybe do a 12 personnel offense here, but that's not the case. It's definitely 3 receivers, 1 tight end. So that's where we're at.
Okay. We've already done also coordinators and coaches, like to some degree. If we want at the end of this, we can do that. But yeah. So are you ready? By the way, I don't want you to look. But because I know a lot of the Eagles fans, BGN radio fans follow me on Twitter. I love you guys, and I'm sure that I've set you with my tweets. Well, I had a tweet right before we started recording. I told Brandon I needed a few more minutes because I was doing a billion things. And one of those things was I sent a tweet. Do not look at it, Brandon. Because it's kind of about what we're going to discuss. It poked some Eagles fans, and so I just want you all to know that I literally just sent that tweet. That's the time zone I am in personally.
Okay.
Yeah, but yeah.
Yeah. Okay, we'll get into this later, but yes. You reacted to something.
I just saw a tweet. So the Cowboys. Okay, the last thing that we start building the team. The Cowboys just tweeted out. The tweet reads, "Cowboys Nation, please welcome America's coffee to America's team. We are celebrating America's birthday all week long by giving away 2 tickets to a Cowboys home game, blah, blah, blah." Michael Gowton, who's one of the better Cowboy insiders, covers the team for the Dallas Morning News, quote tweeted that tweet from the team account. And Michael doesn't tweet things out unless, like, he's a very purposeful tweeter. Like, there are some people who tweet like in a casual way. Michael Gowton is a very, very purposeful and specific tweeter. He added, "Cowboys are marketing Black Rifle Coffee, a brand whose products include AK-47 espresso blend, silencer smooth roast, and murdered out coffee roast as America's coffee." So maybe not the most, socially aware thing to do in today's climate is really the most nice way I can say that.
I don't know that people were asking for more guns in their coffee, is what I will say.
Yeah. This is, this is the same offseason that the Cowboys, by the way, Brandon, I'm sure you saw, officially partnered with a crypto company. So cryptocurrency, crypto company. I don't know the proper verbiage. So, I'm so happy that now I have to deal with this in my life. Thank you very much, Cowboys. Appreciate you. Okay. Are we ready to start the NFC East All-Stars? Wow!
We'll start with the quarterback position, obviously, and
yeah, we will.
Dak. I mean, who else are you putting here? No one is, which is a really funny thing about the division. There's a clear best quarterback in the division, although of course it's possible that Jalen Hurts gets better, has a good year. It's also possible that Dak can be the best quarterback, and the roster around him, which has gotten worse, isn't good enough, and he can't necessarily elevate it to the level that the Cowboys need him to go deep on a playoff run. So it's kind of an interesting way to think about what exactly this means, but there's no debate. I mean, it's Dak. What do you have to say about it?
Well, first of all, I think it's interesting because my mind went the same place you did, right? Like, oh wow, it's rare that you have a division where it's like it's not a discussion, or like nobody can argue that Dak is the best quarterback in the division. Doesn't every division in the NFC have that same like set of circumstances? Like, is there an NFC division where it's like debatable who the best quarterback? Maybe the NFC West if you are like a big Kyler stan, but that's it. I mean, right? Like it's clearly Dak,
Brady.
it's clearly Rodgers, clearly Brady, and clearly Matthew Stafford. I think, especially after winning the, how it's like, oh yeah, he's a Super Bowl. Kyler doesn't have a Super Bowl. Kyler, you know what I mean? Like it's impossible. Meanwhile. Well,
yeah, Trey Lance is the best.
If you listened to Monday Football Monday, then maybe you know that stats contends that. But in the AFC, for example, I'm coming back to Dak, but like the AFC West, there's a lot of Herbert stands, including yourself. The AFC South now has Matt Ryan, who I don't believe in, whatever. But in the AFC North is a huge debate, right? Like who the best quarterback is. And the AFC East is the only one that is like undisputed.
Yeah.
So
I
thought that was
Zach
interesting.
Wilson, right?
That's true. Yeah,
I have a couple questions at this position. First one is, who's the second best quarterback? Would you say it's Hurts?
It's Jalen
Or
Hurts.
is it Wentz?
Man, that's such a good question. It might be Wentz. This is a stupid way to say it, but like if they were in a draft, I think Wentz would go first, but I would rather have Hurts leading my team. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think it does.
I'd rather have a lesser player on my football team where chemistry is an important factor. You know what I mean?
Well, I also think you're going with more upside. I think Hurts definitely has more upside than Wentz does at this point, and durability. I think what Hurts also offers a higher floor, honestly, just because of his rushing ability and everything. The other question I had, because I think this is a little interesting, who is the best backup quarterback in this division? Would you rather have Gardner Minshew, Tyrod Taylor, or Taylor Heineke?
It's funny that the Cowboys are so clearly and obviously last.
Yeah,
right. And that their backup won a game last year. You know what I mean?
Is this like the best backup quarterback division? Like, because those are some pretty good backups.
Dude,
there.
That's such a great question. I think the best one's probably Taylor Heineke. I think, again, I would maybe like you could argue that Minshew has more upside in like ironically because it's of who Taylor Heineke sort of replaced, but in like a Fitzpatrick-y sort of way, right? Like he could have like a 350-yard game, but he could also throw like 6 interceptions. So maybe lower floor. Like Taylor Heineke might have the highest floor. That's probably the best way to say it. And like you want the more stable backup quarterback option.
All these players could like reasonably start for one of the lesser teams in the league, and it wouldn't be like a disgrace. But yeah, it's reasonable. Like it's not their long-term answer, but it makes sense for now. And even Cooper Rush, who is the worst of this group, like, okay, he helped. I mean, the Cowboys won with him last year against the Vikings. So, like, if that's your worst backup quarterback in the division, like, you could do worse than that.
Yeah. I mean, who's the Panthers' backup quarterback right now?
Is it still PJ Walker, maybe?
I think so.
They drafted or Matt Corral, I guess.
Oh, you're right. But who would you rather have starting for your NFL team? Sam Darnold or any of the NFC's backup quarterbacks?
Oh, come on. Yeah. Same thing with like Seattle. Like, would you rather have Drew Lock or literally any of these guys?
By the way,
I read Taylor.
Just because of the time that we're recording, the Drew Lock US Open Twitter thing was so
annoying.
It was dumb.
Great.
I didn't
No, it was good.
Funny. No, it was funny at first, and then it like went on and like Drew Lock like clapping
I didn't
back.
see that.
Like it was stupid. Like it was just the initial thing was funny. We could have just let it be, but no, we had to like over internet it because that's what we do in today's.
Okay, I didn't see the rest.
So, yeah,
I didn't see the rest. I was commenting on the first thing, and hey, let's go Rafael Nadal. Let's hope he gets another Wimbledon here. Moving on to running back. If you're ready.
So I don't even get to offer any Dak thoughts. I guess that's just my point. Like, wow.
I mean, what's there to say? Like, there's nothing interesting to say.
I think the gap, I used to think that the gap was largest between Dak and the field in any division, but I think it's probably larger between Brady and the field. But like that has nothing to do with like Brady. That's just like the other NFC South teams have like completely collapsed. Like the closest thing was Matt Ryan, and then obviously the Falcons just had a mess of an offseason. So like, I mean, my point is Dak is very, very, very like I don't even know like outside of any of the other teams acquiring a new quarterback in 2023, Dak is comfortably the best in the division for the foreseeable future.
Scale of 1 to 10, what's your confidence level in Dak Prescott being the Super Bowl winning quarterback for the Cowboys?
10. Like
being the most confident.
Okay. Like he checks the boxes of like what that position needs, and I say that position like relative to the Cowboys because I know you love this.
A 10, like, really? Like so you wouldn't take anyone over
like
him then if you're saying 10.
No, that's not how I'm evaluating it. I'm evaluating it like, does he have the necessary things to be the Super Bowl winning quarterback for the Dallas Cowboys? And again, like I add that last part because it's specific. I don't think that, you know, like, I don't know, Matthew Stafford or somebody could do it for the Cowboys. It's different. I mean, like it is different. Like it's maybe not seismically different the way it used to be, but it is different. So I think that Dak checks all of those boxes. He has the necessary ingredients. But you're right. It is like this is a big year for him. Without Amari Cooper now, it's like, okay, dude, be the guy. Like lead the team, carry, like elevate people. And he's done that before to different degrees, but he's gonna have to do it, you know, kind of on a weekly basis now. But okay, moving to running back to your point. This is a really interesting one. So like we've got Antonio Gibson. We've got Miles Sanders, a.k.a. the author of the real All-Stars. We've got Saquon Barkley, and we've got Zeke Elliott. Do you want my answer? Because you kind of actually went first with Dak. Or do you want your answer? Go. Like Tony Pollard. I think kind of like on the backup flavor. I think he's the like if we just like if they were in a draft, I think Tony Pollard would go first. He's the best runner on any of these four teams. He's obviously not the most accomplished. He's not even like the second or third most accomplished. He has less carries. I don't know if you know this in his 3 seasons with the Cowboys than Zeke Elliott had just his rookie year. Sure. And he's criminally underused. We know all the narratives, but he is the best player at the position on any of these 4 teams.
He was 4th in yards after contact per attempt last year, just behind Rashad Penny, Nick Chubb, and Jonathan Taylor. And obviously Penny isn't like a stud, but he went on that crazy tear at the end of the season. So it's, you know, pretty good company to be in. Also, like Zeke is kind of cooked, like relatively, like he just had so many carries. I don't trust it. I think there's more upside with Tony Pollard. I know there's some reason probably why he hasn't been a volume guy yet, and he hasn't proven that he can handle a volume, but for what his role has been, and also he gives you some special teams value, and also like I saw, so not to take shots at our good friends at Hogs Haven, but to take a shot at our friends at Hogs Haven, who actually did an all NFC East team in an article for their own. They had Saquon at running back, and I'm like, what are we doing? Like, why are we just giving Saquon the benefit of the doubt? He's played in 15 games the last 2 years, and he has a 3.5 yards per carry. Like, no, like. Maybe he comes back this year and lights it up. Okay, but fine. He has to do that to get the benefit of the doubt again. He has to earn that back. And no one should be putting him as the top running back in this division.
I don't think he even has to earn it back. I think he has to earn it, period. Like, you know, like fine. He had a fine rookie year. You know what I mean? But he would like, was there ever a point where you were like, holy crap, they have one of the best running backs in the NFL? No, like you were like, he's just
that was what, 2018? That's so long ago, too. It's forever ago.
It is like the same distance of time exists between then and now as between then and the 2014 season. You know, with Mark Sanchez, you know, leading the Eagles partly. So,
right.
So the answer is Tony Pollard. Again, if we're fielding the truly best, most talented people, it's Tony Pollard. It's not Zeke. It's not Saquon. I know that Antonio Gibson could be used like Christian McCaffrey, Ron Rivera, but like second might be J.D. McKissick, even, like, you know what I mean? Like, it's a weird group of running backs. Like, I don't seriously mean that, but like, he's not like out of contention for second place.
I think Pollard's pass catching ability, which I'm not sure if we mentioned too, definitely helps him. And I said to you earlier, I think when we were doing our underrated, overrated thing, that Tony Pollard graded out better in pass protection than like Zeke did last year. Mm-hmm. Take that for what it's worth from PFF. So like you can even say like that's like this massive hole that could keep him off the field too. So yeah, I think Pollard is the right pick here. Again, questions about his volume, his ability to handle that, but I would say he's the most efficient and kind of reliable and best upside option. When you mix everything together, like Sanders is really efficient and has been, but there's been availability issues. And as he's actually had volume carries, Jimmy Kempsey made a good note of this recently. Like the more the games he's had, like highest volume carries, he's gotten hurt. He's gotten hurt not too long after that. So like that's a red flag there. And then he's had some fumbling issues, and he has really faded since his rookie year as being a reliable pass catcher. So I can't go Sanders, even though he has like the best yards per carry numbers. I think it's Pollard.
Just because we're here, and it happened like hours after we recorded the mixtape last week. Did you find the All-Star team comment annoying, funny, and like were you indifferent about it? Because obviously we had our fun with it, and there were a lot of Eagles fans I saw that were like. Like, I wonder if that was your emotional reaction.
Yeah, I mean, it is. Like, it doesn't benefit anyone to say that. And it was kind of funny that A.J. Brown, like, clapped back a little bit and tried to, like, explain what should have been said. But, you know, it's a little weird because Sanders isn't that kind of guy who just, like, says something like that out of the blue. He's usually pretty more grounded, one of the more grounded players on the team. So I think it's not the words themselves don't matter. Like you can say anything. It's if they actually believe that, then I'm a little more worried if they actually think. And historically, when you look at like Eagles win totals, projected win totals, and when they're higher, like they typically underperform that. That's historically speaking, not always, but historically, like they're not good at always living up to the hype. So, and as I've said all along, and why one of the reasons like I'm not ready to go like all in and say this is the Super Bowl contender of a team. Beat one good team. They've not beaten one good team since Nick Sirianni and Jalen Hurts like have been here since last year. The best team they beat again last year was like the Saints, who were starting Trevor Siemian. Like beat one good team, and then we can start talking about being like a team that is really good and belongs. So I didn't love it. It's not like a disaster to me, but it's not a good vibes move.
I actually think it's worse vibes than the Dream Team thing, only because it's coming like. It would still be bad vibes if AJ Brown says it, right? But at the very least, AJ's the new alpha coming to town. Like he's a new part of the regime. Well, yeah, that too. But like it's like Miles, you've been a part of the teams that suck. Like like what have you done to like elevate this group? I mean, you were very very famously Saquon's backup at Penn State. So, but anyway, let's move on. Left tackle, or do we want to go to other position? Let's skill positions first.
I want to do the offensive line because I don't know. I feel like if we get all of the skill positions out of the way, then people just are going to turn it off for the offensive line.
BLG knows you all. Okay, left tackle's Tyron Smith. Like, do we have to waste time? Right? Like,
I think you have to make the case for Jordan Mailata here. You look at
oh my gosh, what is
PFF's grading last year. Look at PFF's grading and take it for what it's worth.
Okay,
Jordan Mailata is right behind Tyron
Can you
Smith.
please
Tyron
tell me
Smith
the top
second.
3 tackles from an offensive grade standpoint at PFF?
I forget number 1, but Tyron Smith was second, and Mailata was right behind him. Okay. That makes sense. And Mailata right behind him at number 3. Also, Mailata has the versatility to play right tackle. I don't think that's irrelevant. He is younger. He is much more durable. As you have mentioned before, Tyron Smith has played in, he's missed so many games per season. I did the math. He has played in just 65 out of the last 97 possible games in the regular season for the Cowboys, meaning he's been available just 67% of the time in
There's
those
a whole
last
season
5
missed
seasons.
there, but you're right? Okay.
Well, he's missed an average of 7.7 games the past 3 years. Like that's significant. Everyone knows Tyron Smith is going to miss probably at least 2 games this year. Like he's going to miss games, like plural, not just one, probably multiple, and that's a big deal. So it's hard to say Mailata has earned it just in terms of longevity and everything, but durability is an issue, and I think like you have to. This shouldn't just be a no-brainer, and Mailata is definitely overpassed. Like I think you have to bring him up here and being like on the rise and being able to take that over.
So a few things. One, again, just to be very clear, Tyron played 1 game in 2020 and then missed the rest. And so like that's inflating what you're talking about. It's all true, like what you said, like literally and
the issues are there. It's not like he broke a finger. It's like these are like serious injury issues too.
I agree. But again, like if we're leaning on, we are using, PFF to a degree here, just, for some, some would say not objective, but objective like data.
Line.
Right. From a pass blocking standpoint, their top 3 tackles in 2021, Andrew Whitworth, Charles Leno Jr., so shout out to the Commanders, and Tyron Smith, number 3. Jordan Mailata is 4, 5, 6, 7 from a pass blocking And then from a run blocking standpoint, the top three, Trent Williams, who was number 1 overall, again, Tyron Smith number 2, and Lyle Collins number 3. Thank goodness the Cowboys got rid of him. What an awesome decision. But Jordan Mailata was 5th. So Tyron outranks him overall from a pass blocking standpoint and a run blocking standpoint. I agree that Jordan Mailata's street cred needs to be elevated. If that's the argument you're making, fine. Like, I don't think anybody's disagreeing. He obviously took an important step last year. I think if we're assembling who do we want to play, who do we want to field for an entire 17 game season, if that's the question, then maybe you're like, I would rather take the lesser player who is less likely to miss time. I can understand that argument, but if we're grading, if we're establishing all stars, I think Tyron is the better player. So I think you have to say that, but this still is an important discussion that we had to have.
Yeah, that's exactly the point. I put Tyron Smith, but I put also down, I think you have to think of, it's not, to me, it's not just okay, Tyron Smith, next one. It's no, it's well, let me think. Mailata's younger and there could be more upside. I'm going to go with Tyron Smith, but I thought about it. I gave it some thought. That's all I wanted to do.
If you wanted to, I don't care because it's not going to be Terrence Steele. But if you wanted to play Jordan Mailata at right tackle, if we want to cheat a little bit here, you can. No disrespect intended towards Elaine Johnson.
I don't
but
think
if you
can do that, yeah.
All I'm saying is, if you're truly interested in fielding the best 5, that argument, you just made that argument, is my point. But okay, I don't have a take I feel passionately about when it comes to left guard. This is the weakest part of the entire group. I think there's not really good option to choose from.
I put Landon Dickerson, and before you say that's a homer pick, I mean, in fairness, he was a better run blocker than a pass blocker last year, which I think is something to monitor moving forward, especially as the Eagles try to go more pass heavy. So we'll see how this holds up. But he got better as the year went on, and part of that was the Eagles running the ball more. Also, I think we should note that he should be healthier this year, knock on wood, because he entered last season. He didn't participate in training camp at all. So to go from that and then having to be forced into the lineup as early, I believe, as week 2, week 3, that was kind of not ideal for him, and he still did reasonably well given the circumstances. So I think being healthy, being more cemented in that, and then he was also flipping between right guard and left guard. So being settled in one spot, playing next to Jordan Mailata, being healthier, I think there's reason. I think you have to bet with the upside at this position, as opposed to you could go with Mark Lewinsky, who actually had a similar PFF grade to Dickerson. Maybe he's a better player right now, at this very moment in time. But again, I think you have to go with upside and then versatility too. Dickerson in theory can play tackle and center, every position. So I think that's also valuable. So I think it's Dickerson. I know Hogshaven had Andrew Norwell, but miss me with that. This dude just got cut by the Jags, right? I'm not saying he's trash, but come on.
I agree with everything you said. And so, first of all, congratulations to somebody else from the Cowboys finally making the NFC All-Star team. It's great to see you guys, starting to show up a little bit. But I think I know that Eagles fans hated Landon Dickerson last year, so it's interesting to hear you go to bat.
I don't think that's true.
Everybody hated him last year. Don't act I see all the tweets. Everybody hated him last year. The only thing, because like I said, I mean, I think you laid the point out, and we already kind of said this position is kind of like a desert. If you're betting on upside, and not that you want to bet on this, but I don't think either of us would be surprised if Tyler Smith does we wouldn't be surprised if the Cowboys hit a home run with a rookie offensive lineman, right? At guard, in a
vacuum, yes,
exactly.
But with him, not sure.
I'm not trying to be a homer. I'm really not, but it would not be the most shocking thing in the world if they pulled that off, right? And so I could see it sitting here a year from now being holy crap, Tyler Smith really cemented himself as the best left guard in the NFL, or not the NFL, in the division. And so that's all I'm saying. I mean, just keep an eye on Tyler Smith. The kind of, we're throwing things out. So congratulations to Landon Dickerson. Center, if you allow me, Brandon, I will go first. I know that I have upset. I've peed into the wind several times on this subject. So you know what? I'm peeing downwind here. Just not even wasting my time. Jason Kelce, let's go. All right, let's just move on, and then you can get out of this division. You could a year from now we won't have to talk about it because I'll be retired. So Jason Kelce, boom, palms off.
I don't know if that's true. You're talking about a player again is what? First team All-Pro 3 out of the last 4 years. I don't know. He's definitely gone after this season. And I will say, Chase Roulier was right behind Jason Kelsey in PFF's grading for whatever that's worth. Kelsey was third best center. Roulier was the fourth best center. So I thought that was a little interesting. But I mean, come on. How are you not going to go with Jason Kelsey? Future Hall of Famer, clear best of the position. Like Tyler Biadasz, no. Like replacement level starter, really, at center. And then the Giants got John Feliciano, who's really just like a stopgap for them. So not the biggest competition in the division, but it's definitely Kelsey at the top. What are you writing down, by the way?
I'm
Do you
writing
need a vamp still, or?
Well, I mean, just so people can see how the sausage gets made, I am writing all of the names that we're choosing here.
Okay.
Because I'm gonna write an article about this at bloggingtheboys.com. You know, that's what we do. You record a pod, you write the article. You know what I mean? Like everything. Let's just move. Let's just keep this machine going. I like getting paid. You know what I mean, by our bosses. I want to keep doing that. So if any of our bosses are listening, Brandon didn't write anything down while we were recording. Just so you know, I did.
I have it all written down here. I'm looking at my screen. I have it written down on my screen. I don't think we haven't disagreed about anything. All of these picks have been on the same page. I just wanted to make the case for Mailata before we just moved on from it. That's about it.
But here's the thing: I'm not writing down my list. I'm writing down our group list. So when I write the article,
that's what I'm saying.
These are the NFC East All Stars. You know what, Brandon?
They've all been the same.
You're lazy. You just want to use your computer, right? You know, wow, technology for everything. Man, I remember a simpler time where we would write things down. All right.
I think this one is the least amount of time required, and it's just right. It's Zac Martin at right guard. I mean,
yeah.
I don't even know 100% who the Eagles' right guard is going to be. It's probably Sumalo, but in theory, it could be Jack Driscoll. I mean, I don't know who else you're even considering in this division.
I only wanted to say one thing about Zac Martin, just like for my own personal like joy, I guess. I personally started to grow concerned in 2020 because he missed time. He only played 10 games. That was the first year, he was drafted in 2014. First year he wasn't a Pro Bowler or an All-Pro. I know Pro Bowler is not like a big deal, but still, like that was the first year he wasn't either one. He'd been a Pro Bowler and an All-Pro to some degree every year of his career. Got back on track last year, Pro Bowler, All-Pro, and played 16 games. So like. I was a little spooked that we were entering Tyrant territory from like a health standpoint for Zac Martin. I realize he's older and like you never know, like obviously the way things go. But last year was a great like sort of rebound. I was really, really, really kind of wanting to see that. And we got it. So I'm a little bit more encouraged by Zac Martin entering 2022 than I thought I would be a year ago.
Okay, over Trey Turner as well.
Right, right tackle. I mean. Is it Elaine Johnson? I mean, I don't think,
Who else would it be? Who else are you taking?
I mean, look, these are the options, right? Terrence Steele, it's not Terrence Steele, obviously.
No.
It's Elaine Johnson, as mentioned, Sam Cosmi, and Evan Neal. I mean, and like we'll see. Like maybe if you want to make an argument about upside, right? Like you never know. But I mean, it's Elaine Johnson. Like for now, again, if we're establishing who the All Stars are today.
He was PFF's 10th best graded offensive tackle last year. I think if we're talking about most underrated players,
when it's Tyron, they're stupid, right? Mm-hmm.
I mean, I brought him up with Tyron, so I don't know how this argument works for you. But if we're talking about nationally underrated players, not underrated by us and people in the know, but if we're talking about national, I think Lane Johnson continues to be, by virtue of his position, like if he played left tackle, he'd probably get a lot more respect than he currently does, just because that's how the positions are viewed by many analysts and whatnot. But Lane is great. He's an all-pro caliber, Pro Bowl in, year out kind of player. I think to go through what he did last year with his battle with mental health and everything and be able to come back and play at such a high level was really commendable. And obviously a lot of respect for him for having the vulnerability to go through what he did and share it with everyone. So Lane's awesome. Awesome personality, awesome guy by all accounts that I know of, and a great player too. And I think again, kind of a little underappreciated in terms of recognition. So at least we love him here on the show. We give him love. So there you go. Starting right tackle, Lane Johnson. I
agree. And again, like a great person by all accounts, and certainly we're all rooting for that element of him. No Cowboys fans rooting for him to have I don't want him to get cut or anything, but I just want him to be like an average,
He's a Texas guy.
Have a great NFL career. Just don't help your team win games. That's really kind of what I want. But okay, so all told, our offensive line from left to right: Tyron Smith, Landon Dickerson, Jason Kelsey, Zac Martin, Lane Johnson. So 3 Eagles, 2 Cowboys. We have an all Cowboys backfield in Dak Prescott and Tony Pollard. Hogs Haven and Big Blue View listeners, He is on Twitter and Instagram at Brandon Gowton. I am on Twitter and Instagram at RJ Ochoa. I challenge you to find a spot where we are, allegedly being homers. Like I don't think of the positions we've named here, Brandon, quarterback, running back, and the offensive line. I don't think there's an objective argument for any Commander or Giant. Again, the Evan Neal thing is like an upside thing. So maybe like in the future. I don't think you can make an argument for any Commander though, except for maybe backup quarterback. Like we talked about. That's
I'm having a tough time seeing it. Like even if you're the biggest Antonio Gibson guy, I just think the numbers really aren't there. I'm seeing a tough time. I mean, again, maybe if you want to argue Andrew Norwell gets back to a high level, okay, like you could put him at left. It's possible, it's feasible, but are you really jazzed about that? Do you really, of all the things you could argue in your life, do you want to spend time on that? I don't think so.
That's true. Okay, so we have 4 left. Do you want to do tight end first or save it and do other wide receivers?
Let's do tight end because I think it's also another answer that is clear cuts, even though you're tweeting something out, some nonsense out here.
I tweeted out the production and I listed the amount of games played. I get, people like, you left this out. Well, no, I gave you all the information you needed
Did you put targets? Did you put targets in there?
No, because I don't think that's relevant here. So
Why is that not relevant?
Dallas Goedert over the last 2 years. Okay, 26 games. 102 receptions and this is against Dalton Schultz over the last 2 years. So 102 to Schultz's 141, and granted with 7 fewer games. So 102 to 141 receptions, 1,354 receiving yards to Schultz's 1,423 receiving yards, 7 receiving touchdowns to Schultz's 12 receiving touchdowns. It's worth mentioning that Dallas Goedert has 7 over the last 2 years combined. Dalton Schultz had 8 last year alone.
Did Dalton Schultz
Cowboys got the better tight end in 2018.
Did Dalton Schultz play behind a future Hall of Fame / Pro Bowl kind of caliber tight end?
Like every 2017 Eagles in the Hall of Fame now.
Let's say he's not even a Hall of Famer. Let's say because he was a Pro Bowler. Was Dalton Schultz ever playing behind another Pro Bowl tight end?
Was Zac Martin a Pro Bowl caliber player early on last year? Was he really we're going to go that far? He was that caliber dude.
The point is he had that reputation and was getting the playing time of that player still, or at least split. The point is there was clearly a timeshare here, and Dallas Goedert's volume opportunities.
If you want to talk about timeshare, Dalton Schultz had to fight for targets in an offense with Amari Cooper, Michael Gallup, CeeDee Lamb, and that loves to hand the ball off.
The top tight end, though, like when you want to go to the tight end, you're going to that guy.
But he's still lower in the totem pole. He's still lower in priority.
Sure, but again, it's a different thing. You're playing 2 players at one position, basically, and you can only do that so much. Also, you're doing it in the heaviest run offense in the NFL. So, again, didn't exactly have the best situation for targets. If you want to go to the PFF grades, RJ, and I know you do, Dallas Goedert tied for second with George Kittle last year as the NFL's second best tight end. And I will mention, if it wasn't clear already, that this will be his first full season without Zach Ertz here. If we take Dallas Goedert's stats from last year as the top tight end with Ertz gone, and we prorate them, which isn't a perfect science. It's not a perfect science, but for context, you would have had 117 targets, 83 receptions, 1,200 yards, 4 touchdowns. That would have been second in tight end receiving yards last year, just for context, behind Travis Kelce, who had 1,361. So there's every reason to believe that Dallas.
But you can play that context game. You can play that context game the other way, because Goedert has had 4 years of legitimate usage, right? Obviously Zach Ertz has existed for not 100% of that, but 92% or whatever it is. Maybe
most of it.
I don't know, but most
didn't
of it
really ever get hurt.
Right. Okay. So he's had to contend with Zach Ertz, but still, Eagles can, lots of 2 tight end sets, whatever, things like that. Dalton Schultz was insignificant his NFL career for the first 2 years, and so he's really only been I don't want to say an active NFL player, but he's really only been active as a part of the offense for 2 years. So he hasn't even grown in he hasn't had the same opportunity for growth as Dallas Goedert. You can make a huge argument that the ceiling is higher for Dalton Schultz in that sense. I mean, the production is there for Schultz over the last 2 years over Dallas Goedert. That's the same sort of window. There's a lot of extenuating circumstances and factors here, to your point, but that's the Jalen Hurts era. to a large degree. I know it's not like the whole thing again because of Wentz and whatnot, but like that's the Jalen Hurts era. Schultz also dealt without Dak Prescott for a huge chunk of his first season as an NFL player. Dalton Schultz has had one season in the NFL with a top quarterback week in and week out, and he was incredibly productive throughout it.
Okay, Jalen Hurts doesn't throw over the middle of the field, and Dallas Goedert still.
So then, why do I want Dallas
this.
Goedert? Like, why do I want him if he's on an offense that isn't going to be thrown? Like, that's stupid. I don't want.
Well, Dallas Goedert. Jalen Hurts isn't our quarterback for this NFC East team.
I really think this is a split, and that's how I'm gonna like.
No, it's not. It's not.
It is a split. No, we have 50-50 vote. Like that's how this works. This is truly a split.
No.
It's absolute. The production overwhelmingly favors Dalton Schultz. The production, he has
Anyone
the production. All Dalton Schultz has is these like ifs. If Zach Ertz didn't exist, if he had a better quarterback, blah blah. No, at some point you have to find a way, and he didn't. I mean, he hasn't. That's hey. And again, this like idea that like his ceiling was so limited because of Zach Ertz's presence. Again, Dalton Schultz. Not on as run heavy of an offense as the Eagles, obviously, but had to contend for targets in an offense that featured 3 pass catchers that were higher than him on the priority list. That was not the case for Dallas Goedert.
Dalton Schultz with a 10.0 yards per reception mark over his career. Really scintillating stuff there. I really have to be afraid of that. Dallas Goedert at 12. Okay. It's Goedert. This is just ridiculous. It's not a split.
I'm riding Schultz.
We can only pick one player. It's a starting 11. One player.
It's a
well, then I want to split my lot in Tyron Smith then.
Oh my gosh, the insult to Tyron Smith. That is so ridiculous. I will give you this out of the kindness of my heart. But I'm going to make a huge case about it when I write the article. So just so you know.
That's fine. But it's Goddard. Okay. So the receivers, this is where it gets interesting, I feel like. I think we're going to have the same answers, but the discussion is interesting.
Okay. Then the 3, just because let's just like blitz through it so we can discuss it. A.J. Brown, Terry McLaurin, CeeDee Lamb.
Yeah. And I think it's just like, I think you're overthinking it here. If you're like, we have to shoehorn these guys into specific, like this guy has to play the slot. I mean, no, these are the 3 best receivers. Although I do think, and this goes to my point and against your point of DeVonta Smith being overrated because he's not even making the top 3 receivers list in his own division. I think there's a good chance. And I talked about this with Jimmy on BGN Radio. I think we both took like DeVonta over AJ Brown and a lot of over under like projections that we did. And
that's a different game, but I understand what you're right.
I think people are sleeping on DeVonta a little bit, and I think DeVonta's being a little bit underrated and AJ Brown's being a little bit overrated just at where things are, in part because he's the shiny new toy. But I think Hurts having that experience with DeVonta Smith, and it's limited sample size, but just even looking at it in the couple OTA practices that I saw, like Hurts and Smith were so clicking. They were on the same page, and AJ Brown and Hurts weren't. And I'm not like concerned about that because it's an OTA practice and it was like one of 2. But I just think that kind of speaks to, I think DeVonta Smith's being a little slept on. I had him as a top 3 guy last year. I don't regret that. I think there's a very much a realistic world where he ends up being better / more respected than AJ Brown at the end of the year. But for now, I think because of his track record, AJ Brown gets the nod. And then you can talk about that.
I agree. And I actually think, like, I stand by everything I've said about DeVonta Smith to this point, but I do think it's a good thing for him that he doesn't have to deal with the, like, call it the expectations that generally a star wide receiver has to in their second year. Because by then it's like, you have to be the guy. You have to become the alpha, like blah, 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 blah. And I think CeeDee benefited from that, right? Like CeeDee's entering his 3rd season in the NFL, and he's never had to be the dude until now. And so it certainly helps that he has 2 years of NFL experience. And so DeVonta doesn't have that same sort of like spotlight on him because it does exist for AJ Brown. So that's my point there. But that being said, I don't know how AJ is clearly the best receiver in the division. McLaurin is clearly the 2nd best receiver in the division. I think CeeDee is clearly the 3rd best receiver in the division. I think the highest upside exists for DeVonta. I think the highest floor exists from Michael Gallup. I think that the ones that could surprise us are Kadarius Toney or Kenny Golladay. Like, I think that's how I view the whole group as a whole. I think everybody else kind of, like, I think that's all the boxes that they fit into. But I still, like, the production isn't there for DeVonta to, like, really be overwhelmed. I think it's interesting that you put up a larger fight for him last year than you were, like, super accepting of this right now. And some of that's just, like, the change that's happened here. My question to you is, if Amari Cooper were still on the Cowboys, who is he replacing here? CeeDee? right? Like CD gets the bump out, and it's AJ,
Yeah.
Terry, and Amari, right? That's interesting. So the Cowboys traded away a top 3 receiver in the division. I think he's even a top 2. Like you could make an argument that maybe AJ Brown's better, maybe you prefer that, but he's better than Terry McLaurin, or at least what the Cowboys he is. I don't know. That will be a fascinating litmus test to see Amari in Cleveland, although obviously they have their own issues. We did not discuss, because it happened after we recorded Terry McLaurin's new deal. That did happen. He's awesome. Like we've this has been like the Terry McLaurin show in many different times in many different terms. It's a bummer that he's sticking around. But I mean, you're right. He's properly rated now, especially after the contract. Like he's just kind of like in the right neck of the woods as far as where he belongs.
Yeah. I do agree with my own opinion on that. I wanted to ask you, who would you have as the 4th and 5th receiver here for sure? And also, like, obviously, it's not like a real roster where they're playing special teams, but like who are the next best wide receivers that if somehow there was an injury or to a receiver at this team, we would plug them in next? I would say DeVonta is one of them. I'm guessing you're taking Gallup for the other.
That's the 5, like in whatever order you would rank them. I would still put.
I don't think you can put Tony up there yet.
No, I would rank them AJ McLaurin, CD, Gallup, DeVonta. And again, some of that is just that we haven't seen it from DeVonta Smith. I totally agree that he has a higher upside than Michael Gallup, but I think Gallup's floor is larger right now. And so like I think he's a better receiver today. That can obviously change, and he's coming back from the injury and things like that. But those are the 5. I mean, like without question. I don't think that that's a shock by any means. And I think if you have to come up with an honorable mention, I don't know that it's Kadarius Toney. I mean, I honestly, like, it might be Jahan Dotson. Like, if I have to come up with a 6th, I might prefer him. I've said this before, but I'll say it again. Trayvon Diggs caught more passes in the MetLife end zone last season than Kadarius Toney and Kenny Golladay combined. So, I mean, like, I just have a hard time believing in them. It's nothing but upside. Like, you're only banking on, like, ideas and hopes. Like, there's no real production to believe in.
I think Golladay might. I think I'd give him the nod in terms of he's just done it before. Like Tony has more of the upside, whereas Golladay has more of like he's done it in the past at least. So maybe he can get back to that level. I think he'll bounce back a little bit, but I could be falling for a sucker's bet. But in any case, like pretty talented division at this position.
So the NFC East All-Stars is compiled by the dudes who run Bleeding Green Nation and Blogging the Boys, SB Nation's home for Eagles and Cowboys content. Here we go. At quarterback, Dak Prescott. At running back, Tony Pollard. Our offensive line left to right, Tyron Smith, Landon Dickerson, Jason Kelsey, Zac Martin, Elaine Johnson. Tight end featured the most debate. It was really Dalton Schultz, but we went with Dallas Goedert. A.J. Brown at receiver, Terry McLaurin following up, and C.D. Lamb. So of 11 positions, 1 went to a non-Eagle or Cowboy. And honestly, I think that's very fair. I don't think that I know we get accused by the Commanders and Giants fans of not paying any love or any attention to them. Be good. I would love to sit here and talk about that, but those aren't real viable factors. They'll have a larger presence on the defensive side of the ball, but when it comes to the offense, they have nothing to write home about except for Terry McLaurin.
So it's 5 Eagles, 5 Cowboys, 1 Commander, and 0 Giants on.
And then you have to do the thing when people make a list like that, and they go, and a partridge in a pear tree.
I don't know what that's all about.
People do that. They'll make a little bit I have X of this, Y this, Z this, and then somebody and a partridge in a pear tree. That's the
I don't know if I've heard that one.
Wow.
Who's coaching this team? McCarthy?
Yeah, it has to be McCarthy again.
Who's the offensive coordinator?
I don't know. I don't really care. I don't have a passionate.
I don't think it's a no-brainer that it's Kellen Moore. I
don't either. I mean, to be fair, we ran a study, by the way, and I don't know the numbers off the top of my head, but if you listener want to Google it, Kellen Moore is entering his 4th season as offensive coordinator of the Cowboys. It is really rare that a coordinator makes it to year 4 with the same team. Because they're either fired or they get a head coaching job. So I don't know how that makes me feel, and we talked about Tony Pollard and how criminal it is that he's been underused. His entire career is Kellen Moore's career as the offensive coordinator. So if we want to sit here and be well, they haven't found ways, that's Kellen Moore. He's regarded as new and hip and innovative. You know what I mean? That's just, and I'm not saying he's trash. It's not always one or the other. As we say, the truth is generally somewhere in between. But yeah, so I feel pretty good about this.
pet peeves before, and that's one I wanted to bring up. Is just and I mentioned this to you. I was on vacation, to be clear, in a hotel in San Diego, and I felt so passionately about this because I was assembling the link, and I had seen an article at Blogging the Boys, and I'm not trying to call out BTB or another writer specifically, as much as just the off-season hype of players that gets out of control, and like it just seems like people never learn. Like there's no accountability with any of this stuff. It's like this player is going to be great, and then they do nothing, or they're not that great, and it's never like revisited after the fact. It just goes into the next offseason, and sometimes it's the same player. And in terms of Tony Pollard specifically, they're using him in the slot more, and it's like, wow, this is mind blowing, and this is gonna like make a world's difference. And then the season rolls around, and like I said to you, like maybe the Cowboys will use him in the slot, like I don't know, like 2% more of the time, like more than did previously, but like it's not going to be this like radical game changer that totally flips everything. It's like it's just so dumb. I can't believe people. I get why people would want to buy into it. Again, I will never begrudge people for getting excited and being fans, but I can't understand like why people think this is actually as relevatory as it is, and all these fantasy football people jump on it. They're like, oh my god, did you see Pollard being used in the slot? They're totally going to make this creative. It's like no, they're not, because we haven't seen it yet. Why would it all of a sudden just change? Like to your point, especially, it's not even like it's a new offensive coordinator, a new head coach. It's the same thing. How is it radically being different now?
So, like I told you that day when we were chatting about it, I think this is the difference between like Cowboys fans and like people who follow the Cowboys, like you do, obviously. And I don't think I think on one hand, like average informed Cowboys fan is like, okay, cool. But that same person is also like, well, you've said this before and you've done this before. Like you've trotted them out like in OTAs and training camp. We've seen it before. We've literally seen you do it in games before, and then you stop doing it. So like, cool. Like we plan on doing it, but like we need to see it to believe it. So like, I don't like, just to address your point, I don't think there's an informed Cowboys fan out there who is like foaming at the mouth, like here it comes. Like I think everybody is truly whatever. Like they're not going to do this. It's a similar thing. Like I've told you before. One of my pet peeves is like Matt Let's Go was a 5th round tackle taken by the Cowboys this year. And so like this happens every training camp, and like Eagles fans will do it with like day 3 picks or undrafted free agents. Like a lot of Cowboys fans will be like, well, I don't know. I think Matt Let's Go is really going to like impress. No, like you're confusing what you want with what you think.
Right.
Like things you want are not things you think. And like people like blend those two together so much, and they'll be like, I think insert like down the roster player here is going to show up. And then they'll point to like the one example that's done it before. They'll be like, well, Dak Prescott made the team as a franchise quarterback as a 4th round pick. Every team in the NFL passed on Tom Brady multiple times. Yes, like we can find an example to prove every single thing, but the overwhelming likelihood is working against that. So that's my pet peeve.
I think things are more set in stone in general, just in life almost even, than people want them to be or acknowledge that they are. One of my things, another pet peeve is, and this actually worked for the Eagles this year, so maybe not the best example in this specific case, but in general, it's just like every time the team loses and the offense isn't good enough, you just had to run the ball more. If you ran the ball more, magically the offense would have been way better. And again, that actually was the case for last year's Eagles, but I don't think is literally always the case in every loss. It was like, oh, well, they didn't run enough. It's that simple. Or like blitzing. Everyone's like, if you just blitz more, the defense will be better. It's like, it's not that simple. And also the idea that you can just move players to different positions and that solves everything. Like, man, this cornerback, he sucks. If you move him to safety, he's going to be awesome. It's like, well, okay, maybe, but probably not. Even this even happened, I feel like a little bit, not in a big way, but with like JJ Arcega-Whiteside. Everyone's always moving to tight end. It's like, who cares? He basically was playing tight end last year. That is such a non-starter. Like, who cares? Like that makes like almost no difference. But somehow people think these little tweaks like are this huge thing.
Along those lines, and like this is a little bit more mainstream, but like the experience they have like as an athlete in a different sport is like oh well he like he knows because he's played lacrosse, so he knows how to like get in the like dirt. Or I also like a better example is like I hate when like people will be like, well, he knows what it takes to build a championship team because he's been part of it. Oh, you're right, he was the GM of that team for sure, right? Like he knows like about all the contract situations and everything that everybody was dealing with. Like he definitely understands all of that. Like that's a big deal. But yeah, this turned negative. Let's veer it back positive. I had 2 coffees today, so I'm feeling pretty good. Yeah.
Wow. Where from?
Home in our little
homemade
thing. Nespresso, baby.
Okay. I like how you just didn't say espresso.
No, that's the name of the brand, Nespresso.
No, oh, okay. But I like how I thought you said espresso.
No, it's the name of the brand. Like what you're saying is like, oh, it's so weird how you said Nike. Like that's the name of the brand. Like that's what it's called. The machine.
No,
is
I
an
get it now.
machine.
But I thought you just said but like I'm saying espresso is the right way to say it, whereas some people will say espresso. There's no X.
Oh yeah, that's dumb. I hate dumb things, so that's dumb. So I hate that thing. Okay.
I turned it negative again.
Is there any one thing you want to say? Can be good, can be bad, can be in between, can be about life, food, arts, politics, religion. Any one thing you just want to say?
Stranger Things season 4. Not going to spoil it, obviously, but really good. Finished really strong. Highly recommend people start from the beginning if they haven't already and watch the entire series because it's really good. I think it's worth your time. You're going to love season 4 when you get there. Definitely worth it. And right to sell on Craft Jerky. Discount code BGN15, 15% off.
Shout out to Rachel, our producer, getting back from vacation. Looked like she had a good time. And shout out to the state. What did we do last time? Wyoming? Was that the state we did? Or we did Maine, right? So what state do we want to be the official state of the NFC East mixtape for the next 7 days?
Well, they have good pizza, supposedly, in New Haven, Connecticut. Some of the best in the world, some would say. So I'm going to give it to Connecticut.
We're not going East Coast.
It's Connecticut.
No. Oregon. I want to go Oregon. Opposite direction. But I like when people say Oregon. I like that a lot.
Shout out Justin Herbert.
That's true. Also, by the way, this is the last thing to be negative, and then last thing. I don't know who it was or what podcast I was listening to, and they were talking about Justin Herbert and how he was at one time asked who his favorite player was growing up, and the person
Joey
was
Harrington.
And they were like, he said Joey Harrington. Isn't that so interesting how you picked this random? No, it's not interesting. He picked a very famous organ player. How is this shocking to you? You know what I mean? It's
what's
stupid.
Wrong with that too? I don't remember Joey Harrington's Oregon career, but I'm guessing he was probably a good college player.
No, but that's what I'm saying. The person who was telling this story had no knowledge that Joey Harrington was an Oregon player. So they were like, "Can you believe it?" It'd be like if they were like, "He said Taylor Heineke." Oh my gosh, how crazy and cool! He's what did I really don't know. Didn't Justin Herbert's grandfather coach or play at Oregon? He has an insanely long and rich Oregon tie in history. Yeah. Of course he would pick somebody from Oregon. That's not shocking. Right. So I was annoyed at how the person thought it was shocking. That's my expression.
I get that. I'm annoyed that people think it's dumb. No, it's not dumb. He grew up in that area. That's who he watched. It makes sense. Yeah.
Miss me with all the Oregon uniforms. Don't like it. It's too much. Too
many?
Whatever. It's too many.
I think there has to be a happy medium where I think we need more uniform. The NBA, they experiment with different uniforms every year, and I think that's kind of fun. And I don't think the NFL does that enough. They're just so locked in, and now they're going to be loosening that up a little bit this year. With the third helmet being added and potentially being a fourth in the future. I know the Eagles said they're fighting for that. Hopefully we'll see some more of that. But it's supposed to be fun. Make it more fun.
Yeah. I mean, that's one of the things that the NBA and Major League Baseball gets that the NFL doesn't. People make more stuff.
What does the NFL do that's fun? For the sake of fun. What do they really do? Baseball will do the Field of Dreams game. NBA will do they tried to add a play-in tournament. They tried to add different different uniforms.
I can think of one thing in the NFL, just one single thing, and it's not even cool or fun. Roger Goodell will be like, "Come on, stop booing, ha ha ha!" That's the one. That's the one thing. But
that, and they loosen the number. The number
that's stupid
rule.
Too. That's actually not fun. That's dumb. I hate.
It's dumb, but it's at least kind of player friendly in theory. I don't know.
Nah, man. Baseball gets it. NBA gets it. I like that baseball has the Astros when they're at home on Sundays. They wear the same. They only wear. There's one jersey they only wear when they're at home on Sundays. I love that. I love that you can just watch a highlight from any point. Since they've started doing this a few years ago, and you just know that. And that's why I miss when teams would wear certain colors at home and certain colors on the road. Do that. obviously it's cooler. Like you have more options in basketball and baseball, but like it would be cool if like the Eagles were like, we only do this like on home Sunday games in the afternoon or something like that. That would be cool. Like, have fun. So
they were kind of doing that with the black jerseys for a little bit. They would save them for like nighttime, primetime games,
like prime time,
especially too against like the Giants. Typically, they'd usually wear them against the Giants because the Giants would be wearing their color rush of all white, so it'd be the white, like the white all white versus all black.
Even like and we're about to leave, but like yesterday, we're recording this on the 5th. Like baseball had the 4th of July like arm sleeves and cleats and like that. So that's something they do. Let the players. They have the 1 week where they get to like have their unique cleats, but. Even they ruin that stuff. Like, I don't know if you've heard this story before. Peyton Manning said I think black is now an official part of the Colts color scheme. So I think they can use it now, but at the time it wasn't. And the week that Johnny Unitas died, he asked if he could wear black cleats, like to honor him, and the NFL said no. Like,
right? Like, why? Like, what's the worst that could happen?
I don't know. And Peyton, because he's goody boy, Peyton Two Shoes Manning, I really butchered that, but he didn't do it. And he said, I wish I had. Yeah, dude, pay the fine. You got all that Omaha Papa John's money. So whatever. This was a good episode. Brandon, we love you. The only thing I don't love about you today is your insistence on Dallas Goedert over Dalton Schultz. I will leave the final noise, sound, or poem to you, however you want to end this. You went with silence.
I think silence.